Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of the internet, weird people in the YouTube comments section and all those internet bots we pay to make this stream look bigger than it really is. Welcome to another week of the Whisky Roundtable. It has, of course, been a very, very big week, and the task once again falls at my feet to introduce these lovable idiots of the Roundtable. It's been a huge week in whisky, as it always is, and first and foremost, Melbourne. Fuck yeah. What a time.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
Welcome back. It's been way too long. And even though we can't get there at the moment, we will be there to donate quite a lot of money to your local economy and relieve some of those drams from your back bars all over the town. But tonight is all about Roundtable, and we're going to discuss almost none of the big issues from this week. We're going to instead discuss all the questions that don't really need to be asked, but we're going to ask them anyway. So, Alex Dahlenburg.
Hi.
One of her favourite people on the stream this week. Will we get a word in? Do any of us really need to be here apart from Alex and Reg? It's going to be the Alex and Reg show tonight. Who knows? Now, I said there's been some good things, and this could be one of the good things to happen from this week, but there's been some worrying things that happened this week as well. Andy Milne, for example, has been sharing old photos of dinner parties with people like Alistair Cook. And I'm just wondering if we can get his visa revoked before the 2021-22 Ashes series. I don't know if that's the thing. Matt Bailey, he had a birthday.
Thank
the
you.
World rejoiced.
Happy birthday.
His family shuddered with fear from the memory. And just because he's a little bit older, he's 1 year older, one more trip around the sun does not mean he's a grown-up. And he's very, very lucky, Matt Bailey, that when they check IDs, they check the date and not maturity levels in bars around Australia. For me as well, it's been a pretty good week up until the last 48 hours. Some bad omens in the last 48 hours because...
What happened, Scotty?
Two out of my favourite pens have hit a lot of trouble. One, having some real flow issues. The other one, got a jam converter. It's really tough. I don't know what this means. What are these owners mean, and what does it mean for the rest of the year? This is surely the worst thing that happened in 2020, obviously. But one thing I do know, it's past 7 o'clock. It's a Wednesday. It's Roundtable, so it can't be that bad because we do have Whisky Roundtable and the one, the only, the man, the myth, the Reginator himself, Reg Papps. So, as we all know, let's open up these cylinder cocks and push some of that condensation water out of these cylinders of this engine by kicking off tonight and asking the big questions, of course. Ladies and gentlemen, what is in your glass tonight, and why is it that steam travel is by far the best way to travel anywhere in the world? Ladies and gentlemen, let's get into it.
Yeah, agreed. I have to agree with Scotty. Steam travel, hands down.
And you see how, like, Alex thought she was going to dominate this one, and I've taken the initiative, and I've just taken it away from you very early.
Yeah, just...
Not going to happen.
No, what isn't it? What's in the glass? A quick g'day as well to people who are jumping in here. Kirsten Kane has given us minus 500 points before we even start, so well done.
We were late.
That's how we got here. Gary from down in Tassie, big fan of the trains as well. Ian Schmidt, what a rough-looking crowd. Not as rough as your Port Adelaide chokers, mate. Would you want to talk about that? We can talk about that. And the Reg Alchemist Papps fan club is in the house as well, which is always good to see. But no one
you always stack it.
Yeah. No one answered my question. What is in our glasses tonight?
Well, I'm going to be picking something out in just a moment. I've got the menu here. I'm actually sitting at Dean's Lounge. It's a new little venue in Potts Point. So I've got to pick a whiskey out from their menu here. Give me a moment.
So hang on. Is that a new launch of a new bar?
Yes.
Oh, my! Our invitation must have been in the mail.
Well,
in the mail. Missed the email.
Yeah, rough-looking crowd and everything, you know.
Yeah. Do
you need a better plug for that there? Is that you're right there?
Yeah. Is that the one?
I like it a lot.
Oh my God, Andrew, you were funny.
Yeah, that's
you made it funny.
Milne made a joke. It's only taken 6 months of this.
It's my one. You know, I'll come back again in a couple of years.
So now that Bailey,
I'm looking at Andy's back bar. That's pretty impressive back bar you got there, Andy.
It's the office back bar. Sadly, not mine.
Are you ready for another plug?
Currently treating it as my bar.
Do you need a plug now, Andy? Are you okay?
It's my Buffalo Trace back bar with all of my wonderful. Yeah.
There it is. There's the drop.
It's a good time for anyone who interested in stocking not only Buffalo Trace, but the Pappy Van Winkle and Buffalo Trace Antique Collection, Andrew Milne is the man you need to call at all hours, 24/7, to make sure you get your allocation.
And his number is...
I'll just put his number up.
Yeah, email will come up on the screen now.
It used to be a Spayburn bar, but then they realised no one.
Oh, don't worry, we'll find out.
They changed it.
All right.
Kirsten drinking backwards rye. Most importantly, Reggie, what are you drinking and how are you, mate?
Yes. Good to see you. Good to see everyone. Andy, Alex, Matt, good to see you. Great to be here. I'm on a valve-operated computer, so please excuse the 15-minute lag between conversation and photo. As lately. Dealing stout cask. It's like a great whiskey, really nice, light. If people that ask me they're starting out in it, what would you start? It's a reasonably light. Did I say what? So yeah,
Did you say a fresh
good bang
beer,
for buck.
Matt?
Cheap. Yeah, it smells exactly like a fresh beer.
Fantastic.
I know that's a big gross reference when you think about it, but
Good
fresh
take
beer,
on that,
Matt. Fresh.
It's excellent. 100%. If it's a fresh, that means someone is still in the process of having fun. You're not drinking someone's fun from last night. The fun's still happening. People are still spilling beer.
That's just taking me back to my pub days of washing those and putting them out every morning. Oh, my God. Yeah. All right. So, shall we get into this?
Yeah.
Reg, I have questions.
Indeed. Yeah. Ask away.
I'll see you all in about half an hour.
Yeah.
How long have you been distilling? And I'm not just talking whiskey.
All up, probably getting close to 40 years. So, yeah, 4 decades. Okay. We'll call it.
Do you want to tell the lovely people what you distilled before you got into booze?
Not bad. Have probably done more distilling of refined or product than whiskey. Though on a leader's front lately, I'd be giving it a good shake. We're catching up in the whiskey stakes. We've got some pretty impressive volume figures happening.
Oh, wonderful. All right, so take us through your background, Reg.
30 years working for Shell Oil as an industrial distiller of petrochemical. After leaving Shell, I set up a small boutique distillery, which, we can't, due to legal reasons, we cannot can discuss, but National's got him spirits with a great team of distillers down at Manly and having a lot of fun. Oh, and of course, there would always be one whiskey you'd have to plug.
Bit of Clyde.
I'll bring that comment back up so that I can play.
Now, I'm going to pull this on you, Reg.
Still an outstanding drop.
Have my
yeah.
Do you still have my bottle of Clyde ready for me?
Yes. Yeah, there were certain hostages made it out of said concentration camp alive. So, yes, definitely have that one still here.
Yes. Look,
and it's a crack and drop.
It is absolutely beautiful. I remember. I think everyone knows how excited I am to have you on tonight. But I think you started my absolute love, and I think a lot of people would say like crazy obsession with distilling back in the old days. So tell us where you are now and what you're doing.
Where I am now, working at Manly. Well, a production manager at Manly Spirits, but we tend to don't work with a just great secondary distiller. He's my left hand, Tiago Lopez. I tell you, over the last probably 12 months, carried my skinny little lass more than once or twice. So to that, I got a brewer, Victor Fonseca, who is brewer. He's naturally inquisitive with grain and how it works, the process, and he's so having a lot of fun producing. There's a little port cask expression, and so you can sort of see it's got some good colour, beautiful to drink. and lucky enough to be getting to do some experiments with a lot of different type of barrels. So not just pigeonholed into sort of second fill bourbon. We're doing a lot of experimenting with recharred red wines, some Buffalo Trace, some Jack Daniels barrels, a lot of different things going on. So yeah, it keeps me well and truly out of trouble.
I've
And,
caught
when
glimpses
can we
of some of your
expect-
casks. Sorry, Alex.
We're hoping to do
can-
first release early next year. But we do
Okay.
what's called mystery dram every Friday, where we pick a random cask and taste what's going on, and slowly starting to profile how that release is going to work coming into next year. So looking at what's fast approaching maturity, what could benefit longer on wood. So yeah, a lot of tasting going on at the moment, and very hopeful for a release early next year. Definitely hopeful for an early release.
Quick question, Reggie, just on like in terms of whiskey coming to market, when Manly was first set up, and obviously you went during the setup. I remember speaking to Dave and Vanessa and trying some of the new make spirits and all the different things that were going on, because there was about 3 or 4 different styles of new make they could make out of that wonderous hybrid, pot still with a column neck on it. Is that still something that's going on, or have you sort of brought them down into a one style?
It's sort of more into a Scottish style now. So if we run a peated, we tend to use the reflux condenser up in the neck of the still, in the gooseneck. For most of the barrels we're filling at the moment, it's just straight out Scottish whiskey production. So ferment into a wash still, cut everything out, into a spirit still, do your cuts, heads and tails, back into your next run. So very much the Scottish style, which is kind of going to give them a signature brand of whiskey. I mean, we certainly are doing a lot of experimentation. Like during COVID, we did 68 kegs of Kolsch beer, which produced a really interesting new make, quite spicy from the hops. But yeah, looking to sort of establish a niche or a footprint single malt whiskey in that market.
Excellent. I just want to do a quick shout out to Tiago, who is actually recharging the stills there at the moment, and more importantly than that, is doing quite a bit of tasting right at MSD now. Is there going to be any left by the time that you get back there tomorrow?
Well, I'm certainly hoping that, one, I left him in a good spot this afternoon when I walked out, and secondly, great distiller and got a fantastic palate. He's done a couple of gins for Manly, and they're absolutely sensational. So very lucky to be working with Tiago and with Victor as well.
Very cool.
And I got to tell you, the best part about it is 2 Brazilian guys trying to teach a 55-year-old Aussie Portuguese, and me trying to teach them Australian. So it's absolutely a lot of fun. And unfortunately, any of the Portuguese I know I can't repeat in a public forum because I'd probably get done for offensive language. But we're having a lot of fun.
Last time I was out there, I think I had some of Tiago's birthday cake with the whiskey that was up that day in the bottle, and it was an absolute beautiful match. Yep. So we just need Tiago to have a birthday more often for the cake and the whiskey. That was great.
I feel we should have some pre-release tasting nights. So, David, if you're watching, pre-release tasting nights, we need to get it on, get it happening.
I think we've got a panel set up ready to taste and review. Yeah, I think we're
ready to go. Don't worry.
Yeah, absolutely. Now keep
an eye on the inbox.
Take us through the, Scotty mentioned it just before, take us through the still setup at Manly Spirits, because it's a pretty cool one.
Yeah, stills, goosenecks, downward sloping line arm, not a lot of angle, which tends to provide just enough reflux to do the job. Condensers, and as I was saying, we use the standard pot for our wash still. So 1,500 litre capacity wash still. We run it pretty hard. So we're doing 3 1,500s a day. So it's quite a full-on day down there. And then everything we produce out of low wine straight over into our spirit still. Same sort of pot design, though. It's the bell in the gooseneck to give it a little bit of primary reflux. And then, of course, we've got reflux condenser in gooseneck. So when we run peated, you can tend to get quite a harsh whiskey coming off the peated grain, whereas that reflux just allows you to iron it out, take the wrinkles out, smooth it out a little bit, gives you a much nicer peated whiskey. So a lot of room for sort of playing variation, I guess, would be the best way to put it.
And I know you love your peated whiskey too, Reg.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
I've got a little 20-litre laying down. It's a 50-50 single malt peated. It'll be very interesting to see how it goes the next 2 years.
Yeah, wonderful.
But, yeah, we do peated's not really like a staple. We do it as every now and again we'll get a ton of peated grain, throw it through. The only problem, once you run it, it takes you 3 weeks to get it out of all your tanks. I mean, once it's in your low wines tanks, everything's peated for the next month. Everything's coming out peated. And it gets lighter and lighter, and it's just turns out really nice whiskey. And, yeah, I'm still a sucker for a good peated any day of the week. And then things like this
Reg,
one,
I was just going to ask.
that's a sample of port. Little port cask, which is coming along quite nicely, well-rounded, sweet, beautiful.
You're using quite a few different types of cask, Reg, and I've noticed you guys filling a lot of 200s as well, which is really encouraging to see, 200-litre casks. You probably know, Reg, or I don't know if this is your side of the role at all, but Manly Spirits and SMWS, we both share the same bond store. So you guys have got casks surrounding all of our stock, and I've poked through a few of them. Don't worry, I haven't taken the bungs off any or stolen any Spirit, but it's I noticed things in there like Tokay and Muscat and Sherry and all sorts of things like that, which is really exciting. How much experimentation in terms of finding your core range, your signature style is going into that? I mean, how much of that is going to be drawn from that experimentation? Is that even known yet, or is that part of that production process? Or
still part of production. I mean, primarily we do hundreds in second fill bourbon, so we've got quite a few second fill bourbon. French oak, American oak, the bourbon barrels we got were stunning. The nose on the barrels as second fill were just absolutely beautiful. If memory serves me correct, I think their first fill was 26th of March 2014 at Buffalo Trace. So
if their
fairly
second
fresh.
fill, where was the first fill?
At Buffalo Trace.
Oh, okay, so yeah, first fill ex-bourbon, right? Yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah, they came straight out of Buffalo Trace, and the nose on them was like absolutely stunning.
Yeah, awesome.
And people must walk past the roller door and see an old man with his nose in a wooden barrel. It must look really strange, seriously.
Reg, I wouldn't worry about that, mate. You look strange at the best of times, so I wouldn't worry about that where your nose is. While we're talking about Buffalo Trace and that sort of thing, there's a question that came through from Simon Hopkins just before. And I know you guys have done a lot of experimentation, not only in your whiskies, but in your gins and vodkas. Any plans for an Aussie corn whiskey? And on that note, the whiskies that you're planning to release next year, is that going to be a single malt, or is it a mixed grain, or what is the Manly Spirit?
Single malt.
Single malt.
Manly will be a single malt. That's 100% what the drive is the single malt from Manly Spirit. But there's a little sample of a 2.5-year-old 3 grain, so bourbon, barley, and rye grain. So it's corn, rye, barley. So that is technically a bourbon. If I can just get the thing to work for me. 2.5 years on wood. So would I like to do a bourbon? 100%. Naming is all going to be hard because they own the term. Australian corn, I've always liked it. Moonshine, great term, but I'd love to do a couple of barrels for sure. I mean, what came out of that little 50 that I laid down previously is a stunning expression of a bourbon. Too good to put Coke in, and I was a Jim Beam and Coke drinker for many years.
I still have quite a few bottles of your Moonshine from back in the day. One that's still signed from you, and it was a numbered bottle, and it was absolutely. I have 2, so I've got the one you gave me as a numbered bottle, and then one that I'm pretty much halfway through. It was just You actually like taught me what
it was a good drop.
Yeah, it was pretty delicious.
It's a great drop. It's great.
Just on that, Reg, before we move on, there's a question coming through from Miranda on the chat, and what proportions of grain are we talking? And not maybe not necessarily for what you're producing, but like or what you've already got laid down. But what proportion of grains, when you're talking about those three, barley, rye, and corn, where do you enjoy it? Where do you enjoy your moonshine? Where do you enjoy your bourbon style whiskies?
80-10-10. So 80 corn, 10 rye, 10 barley, which is pretty much Appalachian bourbon or moonshine. You get down around Tennessee, you're talking more 72-18-8, I think it is, for Jack Daniels. And then we get into style, sweet mash, sour mash. I mean, sour mash is doable, but the thought of putting ferment from the last sort of washback into your next run, I can see the point, but it's not something I like to do. I prefer a sweet mash. So that way you're actually letting the grain speak, not previous expressions of what you've done in a still or in a ferment. So always try and start from scratch, which would be a sweet mash.
Yeah. And just for people playing at home, the sour mash is an old school style. You see it on some American whiskey labels. It's the idea of moving some of your last ferment into your new ferment to sort of manage pH levels and that sort of thing. It was back 200 years ago, made a lot of sense to create consistency. But Reg is good enough; he doesn't need it anymore.
That, and also for keeping your yeast colony, for propagation of a yeast colony. So if you had a signature yeast that we're using, you could always keep breeding it off your back ferment. I mean, the yeast that companies turn out today, like Leyland, they're actually turning out grain-specific yeast. I mean, do you really need to propagate? It's a lot easier to start from scratch, providing you've got good cleanliness of all your equipment, stills, ferment, the whole lot. Start from scratch, do a sweet mash. Let the grain speak, let you speak, like how long you give to the yeast to eat. Short ferment, expect hot, spicy. Longer ferment, you get more mellow flavors. It's a lot more like an Appalachian as opposed to a Kentucky. So, yeah, a lot of room to move. Have definitely sort of said to Dave, let's do it. It's just when you're into a production schedule and a program, it's very hard to find time to sort of slot in, and we'd have to do 4,500 litres. So you were talking, you want some bourbon, we can turn it out, but there's going to be a fair bit of it. So roll the dice, it's always a big risk.
That's all right. I can help you drink it.
We can all help there.
I'm pretty...
Can I
check the inbox? Emails are coming.
Can I drag Milne into this now, because I think all of the myself, Alex, and Matt have been very close to Manly. We knew that it was happening before it happened. We've seen it at the very start. We've seen it evolve. We've tried new make samples at all these different things. Milne, who's sort of coming in a little bit later, how do you view Manly spirits from someone coming from the UK, where it was having the same sort of thing as Australia with all these new distilleries come out? What have you heard personally about Manly? What's your opinion of it?
I mean, I hadn't, in the international side, I hadn't heard of it in the UK. I don't think it had made its way across to the UK by the time I moved. Certainly, if it had, it was obviously just the gin side of things. So I was less involved in that sector. But I definitely, as soon as I moved here, was fully aware of the brand and the products. I think because of the variety and range, Manly and Four Pillars were probably the two that kind of definitely took up a decent amount of shelf space in market. So they were kind of seen as the two pioneering brands, I suppose, I'd say. I think, Four Pillars is always kind of regarded as the first, but I definitely saw, Manly Spirits is kind of leading that charge, even before Archie Rose. I think it was, I was aware of Manly Spirits before I was aware of Archie Rose.
I've always just thought that the branding, which I know Vanessa will love this, but I've always thought the branding for Manly Spirits has been absolutely on point. I ran pubs and bars in Manly for nearly 10 point. There you go, Matt. I ran pubs and bars in Manly for 10 years, I think it was, and it's very indicative of where it is. So I love that they've involved that Manly culture, and there's so many international people that come overseas, and it's kind of like you either go to Manly or you go to Bondi. So having a distillery in there, and it's just in the same complex as Four Pines. So having a distillery in there that's on point. Yeah, there we go. All right. Having a distillery that's so indicative of Manly is just brilliant. So I've always loved that. It's very dear to my heart too, purely because of my Manly days.
Yeah. I mean, that's very interesting that you say that, Alex. You said the Manly culture, and I didn't realise Manly had culture.
It's all the Poms coming across and educating that. You know.
On this exact note, being a proud Western Sydney boy myself, a question coming in here from Jesse Morgan, and a bit of a technical question. How does the Australian climate tend to influence fermentation? And Reg, obviously you've distilled out in Western Sydney and now you're distilling in Manly. Do you see differences in those climates, as close as that?
Good question. Manly, we actually have the luxury of having temperature-controlled ferment, so hot or cold, it doesn't really matter. When you're sort of working on a bare minimum budget and you don't have that kind of equipment, you'll find in summer you'll ferment a lot faster. You really need to pay attention to stalling your ferment because of high temperatures. So anyway, you can get it cold, run an air conditioner on it, put a fan on it, keep it a little bit cooler. You'll get the legs out of it maybe 3-4 days, 5 days if you can get it cold enough. Winters, we had the exact opposite. It was that cold. You had to wrap them in blankets and put heaters on them to keep them warm. So temperature controlled ferment with a big scale production all day, every day. For boutique, I didn't really find that the shorter or longer ferment changed the profile that much. It was more, if I made changes to the grain or to the mash bill, then you could pick it up in profile, more rye, more spice. Barley, longer, smoother finish. So ferment, not so much. Grain bill, 100%.
Yeah, okay. And when you say grain bill, what do you mean? The ratios or?
Yes, exactly right. Like, I never did anything by scale. It was a bit like a Picasso. So I kind of knew by eye what to put in a fermenter. And then some days you'd go in and you might have had a big night the night before and put a little bit more rye or a bit less barley, and you could really pick it up in the note of the product or the spirit that you were producing. Attention to detail, as they say. So
absolutely, yeah.
Not just wing it.
There's a lot to be said for just winging it, let me tell you.
It's been my whole life, my whole career, it's just winging it. Shh, don't tell anyone.
What was sort of on this element at the moment? Obviously, Alex, you touched on it when you were asking questions earlier, and Reg, you've been doing this for 40 years as a distiller. Now, a lot of people, very excited about whiskey and craft whiskey in Australia, and they're starting off from, absolutely no knowledge base. Reading a few books, but no practical knowledge. Might go down, help out a few distilleries, but they don't have years or decades behind them. First of all, what are the key things that translate across to the process? And is there anything you would suggest for a distiller who's thinking of getting into it to really look at?
Don't.
Yeah, well, apart from that, if they get through they wake up the next morning, get through the hangover and still think it's a good idea, what advice would you give them from a distilling technical point of view?
From a technical point of view, whatever you think is going to get you through, double it. And that goes for everything. That goes for budget. That goes for cooling capacity. That goes for stills. That goes for everything. If you think you can get away with a 100-litre still, double it, because 6 months down the track, you'll be looking for a bigger pot. Cooling is the number one issue. Distillers ring me about and go, cooling. Think 2 to 5 times more than what you need. Look at your capacity, or look at putting in fans or chillers. I mean, we run a chiller, which is at times in summer when we run flat out is right on its limit. So always think 20, 30, 40,000 litre water tank, depending on the size of your setup. I mean, but yeah, always think big. Always think, if this is my target for production, I need to be 2 or 3 times, 4 or 5 times more than what I need. And it'll save you a lot of heartbreak, a lot of disappointment. Talk to people. Get out into distilleries. Go and talk to people. I mean, my phone number's on Facebook. Hit me up. Ring me. I mean, I love talking to people and I love to distill. So
fucking have a chat.
Yeah, you're struggling. Hit me up. Dave probably shoot me tomorrow morning, but I mean, give me a call. I'm happy to talk to anybody.
That's
It's
one of the,
interesting. It's exactly the same thing that Anthony Wills at Kilhoman said. You know, it's whatever you think is enough, double it, if not more, and that's your realistic, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the setup I built to start with, I was lucky enough that I had a very good friend who was a gifted chemical engineer, came in and looked at it and went, "You're really under capacity for where you want to be, but I can show you how to do it better and get more out of what you've got." And what he did was effectively probably quadrupled the production output of what we were doing. So we went from doing maybe a couple of 100 litres to doing a couple of 1,000 litres without really trying too hard. The setup, I wouldn't recommend running a setup like that to a novice distiller, because we had actually had one boiler full of pure ethanol and another boiler full of water, and we were blending the two streams off under a vapor basket. So we could effectively hold the ABV at 86 for 7 hours and then manipulate the distillation curve to how we want it to run. You want to do something like that, either wear asbestos underpants or get some knowledge. Like, you really need to understand what is going on inside that still. Not just, oh, yeah, we're going to boil up some ethanol and boil up some water.
And
no, Mother Nature will get you. Goodbye.
With your experience from working at Shell, what have you taken from there? That's, you know, what information did you learn from that you've been able to bring across to the whiskey industry, or is it quite a different?
clearly not safety.
You never know. It could have been just a Shell, you know.
We did the HAZOP. It was safe, providing you had the set to run it. And I spoke to him. He was a chartered engineer, and I said, "Hey, is this safe?" And he kind of went, "Yeah, you know what you're doing." So
you know you're in trouble when Reg is asking that question.
And the response is "You know what you're doing. Should be right."
Oh. Now I think
got
we're all
this.
starting.
Just have a crack.
I think if anyone's
to answer the question, what did I bring from Shell? I often get onto the old operators group and thank every senior operator I worked with for the knowledge they gave me. But the one thing they taught me more than anything is, if you don't have a team that is cohesive, will back each other, you've got nothing. The stills will still run, but it'll be disjointed and dysfunctional. You need to have a cohesive team and then build on that.
Reg, I had a question just
and
about...
Shell did it well.
Yeah. Reg, I was just going to ask, how important do you think it is for aspiring distillers and aspiring distilleries to have actual trained distillers? I know that sounds like a loaded question, but there's a lot of distillers where they learn distilling from, because they're like, oh, I was a brewer or I was a winemaker, so I can do this instead. Is this? Do you? I mean, you've obviously got a huge history, as you say, 4 decades in distilling. How important do you see it for sort of up and comers and young distillers to get into the game, to actually get formal training in this kind of field?
Look, I guess at the end of the day, it's going to come down to how fast you want to have a product in marketplace. If you're a new guy starting out, there's going to be a fair amount of trial and error. So you're going to have to run grain bills. You're going to have to, if you're doing a gin, you're going to have to run different mashes, different amounts of botanicals, different grain bills. This is not something you can crack out in 7 days in the garage at home. This takes time, and that slows you down. If I was doing it again, never say never, I'd pay someone that knows what they're doing and say, I need a product and I need it fast. So what can you do? How do we do this?
Okay.
It might hurt financially at the start, but
Well,
we all good?
I took the chance of trying to get Reg full screen while he had a full 3 bars of internet from where I'm sitting. And obviously ruined it for everyone because he knocked all his bars out. So I think, was it Kirsten right at the start who said minus 500? I will take at least 10 of those minus points for that act because I stuffed that one up. I do apologise. Now, a very important question, which is already causing some debate on the chat here, from Tiago, says, Reg, is it true that if you wear an overall while distilling, you make a better whiskey? And Bree Atwood from the Backwoods Distillery in mighty Yakandanda, which also has a
amazing bakery, apparently.
Goods van poking out the back of the new distillery, so that's always good. She says, "I hope not." So bit of yay and nay on there. Can you lay this one to rest for once and for all?
Tiago, you the rules, my friend. It only works if you're nude underneath. Does it make?
Did we've had this conversation, haven't we, about 2 months back on a roundtable? Concept of naked distilling, did that come up, or was that after party chat?
Yeah.
I'm not wearing.
I don't know how we got onto it.
Americans, I can neither confirm nor deny I may or naked at some point in my life. So,
all right, I have some questions about coming from the oil refinery distilling days into obviously the Australian whiskey scene. Talk to me about what's your favourite transition or your favourite point in that difference between the two scenes.
you guys, I got the camera right.
Hey.
Definitely the people support when we.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I got to say, when we had the other players support that, it's a close knit community, and I guess that's one thing that about it. I mean, there's always someone. I see a lot of posts on Facebook. Everyone supports each other. We've been doing it real hard for a couple of months, Hand sanitizer bailed a lot of distilleries out, and thankful for it.
It bailed
so
a lot
yeah,
of
the fact that everyone. Oh, we did 120,000 litres all up, so a lot of hand sanitizer. I won't lose any sleep. It was like.
I think that Whisky Roundtable, with all that talk of new distilling, needs to release an Australian distillers nude calendar.
Oh, I thought you were going to say like a hand sanitizer or something like that.
No, that's it. We're releasing it. I'll come around and shoot it. We're going to release an Australian distillers nude distilling calendar.
I'm so
in December for 2020. What have we got at the end of the year? This year's been a shitter. Hopefully December.
Oh dear.
So, I mean, obviously that's a very sensible idea, which means we're at that point of the night where we're getting into sensible questions. So I want to kick off the sensible question element of tonight by Reg asking a question. I think it was the end of a story that may have come about after the 7th or 8th moonshine at backstage at a music festival in Parramatta Park at some point ago. I can't remember why or how, but why aren't you allowed in Kenya anymore?
I'm impressed. Kenya, I can't one, but I remember at least 2 backstages at a music festival in Parramatta. Very confusing.
Yeah, I mean, I made the Kenya bit up.
Oh, man, let me tell you, very confusing.
I did make the Kenya bit up, I have to admit.
That would have been the
Oh, no.
Oh, magically, when we get into the interesting questions, he disappears.
Just like when the ATO come calling, you just disappear.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they must have been calling by. I actually got it.
I'll be on the phone in the morning at 8 o'clock. Are you making Jackson?
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I did maybe see that one coming just then.
Yeah. So in pre talking to Reg today, I'm like, mate, you're going to need some good lighting. So you're going to need a camera like behind your iPad, and make sure that you have a stable internet connection.
Here he is.
In Bondi.
Yay!
Even clearer now.
Oh, look at that. Maybe not.
While Reg gets back up, and I'll unspotlight him again. I know, Alex and Matt, you've had a lot of involvement with Manly from day dot in terms of just being a fan and being around it. What was it that struck you about Dave and Vanessa's sort of vision when Manly was first being, set up, and then when it first started distilling?
I mean, for me, it was it was actually their gin that really sort of attracted me towards the distillery to begin with. It was just, I think they just produced a fantastic gin, and that's from someone who's not a big gin drinker myself. I mean, I enjoy gins, but I'm a whiskey drinker first and foremost. But this was just I think it was it was like I'm gonna dare I say like coastal gin or something like that, which was very very tasty. And the Australian gin, anyway, I can't remember what they call it now, but and then it was just meeting David and Vanessa and just seeing their passion for what they were trying to build there. And actually, to be completely honest with you, on a nerdy level, it was the organization of the actual distillery that I loved.
I'm going to make this happen, by the way.
I've actually just on a sidetrack there. Dean Drews has called me about the abuse he cops in the comment sections about this thing. So he's coming on in the next sort of 2 months, and there could be some hell to pay from Corowa to some other distilleries in that northern Victoria and southern New South Wales region.
I feel like I missed out on a 2020 calendar. I was shoehorned into being in the Fireball 2019 version, so I need something to send back to the UK for 2021. So I'm game. Stick me down.
I'm
Nude
doing
Fireball
a Victorian
calendar, huh?
I've still got my budgies, so I'm ready to go.
I do have a pair of budgie smugglers from Fireball as well somewhere.
Gents, it's nude.
Oh, I'm holding the budgie smugglers.
I'm doing a Victorian tour as soon as the borders open. So I'll just take my camera down to all the distilleries.
Yeah. Can I come and visit? Can you take your clothes off?
Can you take your clothes off? So Vanessa, before Manly Spirits even opened, sat down. Oh, we lost Reg again. Vanessa, I was running Grain Bar at the time, and Vanessa came and just made an appointment with me after we met at I think it was your event, Scotty, Women in Distilling. That's where I first met Vanessa.
It was here. It may not have been my event.
Yeah. And then she came and sat down with me and took me through all the plans of the distillery and the branding. And I'm just looking at everything that she had up and running, and it was absolutely amazing. And I'm sitting there just going, holy shit, when is this going to open? This is going to be amazing, because it's from Manly, and that's where I spent so much of my time. So I think that from the get-go, the passion and the idea of what they exactly wanted, from that day, it's actually translated exactly into what it is now. So I think that they had everything that they wanted to do from day dot.
Yeah.
And it has transpired that way. So I think it's been awesome.
What Reg was just talking about there about the planning and the foresight that you need to have is, obviously that site was never going to be digging up the whole of their barrels or anything like that, but they had the foresight of where they wanted to go. And so what I loved about it was that trying, and Dave would come to festivals drinking like 4 or 5 different styles of new make, all out of the same still, but they were completely different. I loved the fact that they could produce that. And they were going, we don't know where this is going to happen, but we don't know, and that was really cool for me. There was very few distilleries around the world that you can do that with. And I think it's without Reggie here, we might need to wrap this one up. Because
No, Scott, what is that?
Is he coming back?
So who's Tara, Scott?
We're coming back, and Reggie, are you back there with us, mate?
Scott?
Reggie, are you there, mate?
Is it your birthday, Scott?
I don't have birthdays, mate. And it's been a lovely roundtable tonight, and we would like to.
I don't think we've got Reg. I don't think we've got Reg at all.
Look, we've gone for an hour.
Scott, you don't control this anymore.
So, Scotty,
it's
your birthday today. Hold on, it's got
It's his. So Tara, which is who? Scott? Sister?
Reggie.
Mum?
Reggie, it's been an absolute joy.
Reggie, it's Scott's birthday today, and he hasn't told any of us, and nor is it on Facebook or anything. You're 31 today, Scott.
I would like to say, Reggie, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Maybe 32.
And we're going to wrap this one up. Thank you, everyone. It's been great to chat to you, and I will see you all next week on the Whisky Roundtable.
No, you don't. Shut up.
And he's done. Is it actually his birthday today?
I'm scrambling to look. I think it is his birthday.
Where do we get this knowledge from?
Live right now, and there's just.
How does he keep that secret?
We're still live right now, by the way.
Oh, I know we are. That's great, but he's just left. Stop being a bitch, Scotty. Come back.
I should probably.
I think we just get everyone to spam his page.
Happy
birthday to you.
And that's unfortunate that the rest of Whisky Roundtable could not complete that. Reggie, good to have you back, mate. Finally, someone with some sense to talk to. This is descending into absolute chaos. What did I tell you? I knew the pen's going down. It's an omen. Like the pen's going down was a real omen that something bad was going to happen today.
All right, so everyone, ladies and gentlemen, straight onto Scotty's Facebook page and love bomb him for his birthday because he didn't tell any of us, and it's not up there.
We've lost Matt Bailey, but in all this silliness aside, Reggie, can you hear us, mate? You there? If you can't hear us, Reggie, we love you. We love you dearly. I look forward to getting the update of when the next North Richmond Steam Engine Club is meeting because I'm yet to actually go down and meet them there.
And Scotty, there's so many happy birthday messages. You might want to just click them up on that screen there, mate.
Can't delete them quick enough, which is really pissing me off.
Come on.
No, I don't have birthdays. I like to celebrate things that I've actually achieved, not just survival. Reggie, I don't know if you can hear us.
Survived this far.
I don't. Reggie, can you hear us, mate? I don't think. I think we've lost Reggie in the shed, the Western Sydney shed.
Well, let's finish it up for tonight in saying the biggest happy birthday, Scott.
It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on tonight, Reggie. We look forward to the Manly single malt coming in whatever form it comes. We know there's a lot of stuff being lying down, and we know that not only does it take a great distiller, but it also takes a great blender to bring it all back into line again. So has been excellent chatting to you, even if I'm chatting to basically a picture of you because you're not moving anymore. To everyone who's tuned in tonight, thank you very much. We will be back next week. We have a guest locked in for next week. We will announce during the week, I think. So how's that for organisation? 2 weeks in a row, we were ahead more than the night before.
We were.
With some very exciting stuff coming up. But keep an eye out at Manly Spirits. They have gin. They've got vodka. Do an excellent limoncello. If you ever feel the need to drink a gin and tonic premix, they do that as well. Some of the best I've tried in the country. But early 2021, things persisting, things being proper. We expect to see the first Manly single malt. So we're very excited about that. And we will see you all next week. On behalf of Reg, I believe will say, Reggie, are you there? No, he's not there. So I'm going to say, the greatest form of transport ever, based on Reg's, what he's going to say there. So, Brie Atwood says, so professional these days, guys. I wouldn't go that far, but, there we go. Good to see everyone in the chat. We're going to kill this one off now. And we're going to see you very soon.
Happy birthday to you.